Welcome to the World History.
The year is 1789. France, a mighty kingdom, teeters on the edge of disaster. The weight of its own grandeur is crushing it. Decades of lavish spending by the monarchy have left the treasury bare. King Louis XVI faces a mountain of debt. The French people are restless. Bread is becoming increasingly expensive. Whispers of discontent echo through the streets of Paris. The stage is set for a momentous upheaval. French society under the Ancien Regime was rigidly divided. At the top stood the First Estate, the clergy. They enjoyed immense wealth, owning vast tracts of land and paying no taxes. Their power was both spiritual and temporal, their influence pervasive. Next came the Second Estate, the nobility. They too lived lives of privilege, exempt from many taxes and holding key positions in the government and the military. Their status, passed down through generations, placed them above the reach of ordinary citizens. At the bottom of this hierarchy languished the Third Estate. This vast group encompassed everyone else. Peasants toiling in the fields, artisans plying their trade, merchants seeking their fortunes. They constituted the overwhelming majority of the population, but held the least power. This rigid social structure, where birth determined destiny, bred resentment and frustration. The Third Estate, burdened by taxes and lacking basic rights, grew increasingly disillusioned with a system that seemed designed to keep them subservient. The Third Estate, though diverse in its composition, was united by a common burden, the weight of taxation. While the clergy and nobility enjoyed exemptions, the commoners bore the brunt of financing the French state. Every commodity, from salt to soap, was taxed, squeezing the life out of the poorest. The taille, a direct land tax, fell heavily on peasant farmers already struggling to survive. The gabelle, a salt tax, made a basic necessity exorbitantly expensive. These taxes, collected with often brutal efficiency, fueled resentment towards the privileged classes. The Third Estate yearned for a fairer system, one where their voices were heard and their burdens shared. They desired representation, a say in how their country was run, but their pleas for reform fell on deaf ears, their grievances ignored by a ruling class more concerned with preserving its own power. Section 4, the Estates General, a glimmer of hope, then frustration. Faced with a financial crisis, King Louis XVI made a fateful decision. He summoned the Estates General, hoping to find a solution. The year was 1789 and all eyes turned towards Versailles. The Third Estate saw a chance to voice their grievances and demand reform. They arrived with the Cahier de Doléances outlining their demands, but their hopes were quickly dashed. The Estates General gave disproportionate power to the privileged orders. Each estate had one vote, allowing the First and Second Estates to outvote the Third. Section 5. The rise of the National Assembly, a defining moment. The intransigence of the First and Second Estates, their refusal to acknowledge the legitimate demands of the Third Estate, proved to be a fatal miscalculation. It pushed the representatives of the common people to a momentous act of defiance. On June 17, 1789, the Third Estate, joined by a few sympathetic members of the clergy, took a bold step. They declared themselves the National Assembly, the true representatives of the French people. This act, a direct challenge to the authority of the king and the established order, marked a turning point in French history. The National Assembly's declaration resonated throughout France. It was a beacon of hope for the downtrodden, a symbol of defiance against an unjust system. The common people, inspired by the courage of their representatives, began to mobilize. The revolution had begun. Section 6. The storm breaks, a revolution ignited. The formation of the National Assembly ignited a firestorm of events. King Louis XVI, initially hesitant, was forced to recognize the new assembly, fearing the growing unrest. But the forces of change, once unleashed, were unstoppable. The storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, a symbol of royal authority, marked the true beginning of the French Revolution. The people of Paris, fueled by anger and a desire for liberty, seized control of the city. The revolution, which had begun as a struggle for political reform, was becoming a social upheaval. France was on the brink of a new era. The old order based on privilege and inequality was crumbling. The ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity championed by the National Assembly were capturing the imagination of the French people. The revolution, with all its promise and peril, had begun.